We often think of the Tudor dynasty as being defined by the iron will of Henry VIII, but here's the crucial detail. Even his own family defied him. Everyone remembers the 6 wives, but his younger sister, Princess Mary Tudor, is almost forgotten. She was born a political pawn, a potential queen used to reshape Europe. But when she chose love over duty, she made a decision that not only scandalized the court, but revealed the limits of her brother's power. This is the real story of the forgotten Tudor princess who dared to fight for her own life. The corridors of Richmond Palace hummed with the quiet tension of court life, but in 1496, on a cold March day, something rare unfolded within those walls. A daughter was born to the House of Tudor, Mary, the youngest child of Henry VII and Elizabeth of York. She entered a world shaped by ambition and insecurity, a world where every royal child was not simply a person, but a political possibility. Her brother Henry, the future king, would grow into one of the most feared rulers in Europe. Her elder sister Margaret would be married off to the Scottish throne. But Mary? Mary was different. She was cherished, admired, and destined, so the court believed, to serve England not with power, but with her marriage. She grew up knowing that her life was not her own. The Tudor dynasty was still young, still fragile. Every alliance mattered. Every strategic union carried weight. Mary, with her beauty, education, and royal blood, was a glittering piece on the board. But the story that followed, the story that should have made her famous, has been largely forgotten. And yet, hidden within it, is one of the boldest acts of defiance in Tudor history. This is the story of the princess who chose love over a king's command. The political pawn. To understand Mary's world, we must step into the mind of her father's court. England had survived decades of civil war, and the Tudor crown rested on careful diplomacy. When Mary was barely a teenager, the first major plan for her future was laid. She was betrothed to Charles of Castile, the boy who would one day become the most powerful ruler in Europe, Charles V, Holy Roman Emperor. It was an extraordinary match, a marriage that could have tied England to the rising Habsburg Empire. Court ambassadors praised Mary's grace and intelligence. She was, they said, a princess fit for a continental stage. But the grandeur of this alliance was built on sand. Henry VII died. The new king, Mary's brother Henry VIII, had different ambitions. The match with Charles collapsed, and Mary, once promised a throne, was placed back onto the negotiating table, waiting for a new political purpose. The marriage she did not want. By 1514, Henry VIII sought alliance with France, England's ancient rival. The plan he devised was bold and deeply troubling for his sister. Mary, then 18, was to marry King Louis XII of France. He was more than 3 decades older than she was. He was frail, ill, and childless. This union was never about Mary. It was about diplomacy, treaties, territory. The sources hint at Mary's private anguish. She agreed to the marriage only on one condition, that after Louis's death, she would be free to choose her next husband. Henry VIII accepted, though whether he meant it sincerely is another question entirely. Mary was shipped to France in royal splendor. She played the role expected of her, and within months, Louis XII was dead. The French court whispered. The English court waited. And Mary Tudor, at last free by her brother's promise, made the most audacious decision of her life. The scandal that shook the Tudor court. During her brief stay in France, Mary had been accompanied by one of Henry VIII's closest friends, Charles Brandon, Duke of Suffolk. They had known each other for years. Their affection was no secret. And now, with Louis gone, Mary refused to be used again. With astonishing courage for a royal woman of her time, she took her fate into her own hands. Without permission, without negotiation, and fully aware of the danger, Mary Tudor secretly married Brandon. It was an act of political rebellion unprecedented in the Tudor era. Henry VIII was furious. Marriages were tools of policy. They were instruments of kingship. And Mary, his own sister, had broken the rules. The penalty for such a move could be severe: loss of titles, loss of land, imprisonment, even charges of treason. But something remarkable happened. Mary refused to apologize. She told Henry that she had fulfilled her duty once. She would not do it again. She had given France a marriage of state. Now she claimed the right to marry for herself. And in a rare moment of human softness, Henry relented. Brandon was fined, the scandal was contained, but Mary kept her marriage. She had won. A life lived on her own terms. Mary Tudor returned to England, not as a princess bound to foreign duty, but as a woman who had chosen her own path. She lived quietly with Brandon, raising a family, and remained a figure of warmth and loyalty within the Tudor orbit. She watched her niece Mary I ascend the throne, and later Elizabeth I, two queens who would redefine English monarchy in ways Mary herself could never have imagined. And yet, Mary's legacy is neither royal tragedy nor political revolution. It is something more intimate and perhaps more powerful. She revealed the limits of Henry VIII's power at a moment when his authority seemed absolute. She proved that even within a dynasty built on control, one woman could claim her own life. The forgotten Tudor. History often forgets Mary Tudor. She is overshadowed by her brother's wives, by her niece Mary I's bloody reign, by the dazzling image of Elizabeth I. But Mary's story deserves a place among the defining narratives of the Tudor world. She was a princess raised to be compliant, shaped for diplomacy, expected to serve the ambitions of men. Instead, she became something Tudor England had rarely seen: a royal woman who fought for her own happiness and won. Her legacy is not written in treaties or battles, but in the quiet triumph of choosing love in a world that demanded obedience. If you want to explore more stories that challenge what you think you know about history, subscribe for our next deep dive.